Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monica Gonzalez. I'm the Community Initiatives Manager in the Community Investments Department at Methodist Healthcare Ministries, also known as MHM. Thank you again for joining us for our first ever digital equity webinar. We're so glad to be here. It's been a journey, but we're so excited to share what's happening around our region across South Texas. So just thankful and grateful for your attendance today. So for a little background for those of you who might not be familiar with MHM, we're a faith-based nonprofit organization that is half co-owner of the Methodist Healthcare System in San Antonio. We utilize our earnings in many different ways. This includes providing direct clinical services, engaging in policy and advocacy efforts, offering strategic grant making, engaging in long-term partnerships, and launching new initiatives aimed at empowering communities. We serve 74 counties across South Texas, so that's about a third of Texas and bigger than nearly 30 states out there. We have a big mission. Our mission is serving humanity to honor God. As a healthcare anchor institution, we know health is more than what happens at a doctor's office. We have to look at other factors that influence a person's health and well-being, like access to fresh, healthy foods, affordable housing, high-quality jobs and education, and of course, access to affordable broadband services. That's just to name a few non-medical drivers. Next slide. So in 2019, our board approved a strategic plan that looks at beyond access to healthcare. We're looking at ways to support our 74 county service area with a strategic focus on digital equity, food security, and economic mobility, in addition to access to care. Nearly 21% of our households within our service region have no internet access. So back in 2022, we completed a broadband feasibility study, which involved looking at data, landscape analysis, and interviewing over 100 stakeholders, from ISPs to community members, nonprofits, local government, and other key stakeholders, to better understand how we can best serve the region. So in October 2022, our board approved the digital equity strategy you see on this slide. The four-pillar approach includes strengthening the digital ecosystem, device access and connectivity, digital skills, and online benefit enrollment, with a focus on utilizing a digital navigator approach. Our goal through these efforts is to ensure communities across our service region have access to reliable, affordable internet service and the skills and opportunities to use this technology safely and effectively to support health and well-being. Next slide, please. Partnership is key to the work we do at MHM. We have invested over $21 million in grants to support over 30 organizations in the next 3 years to implement this digital equity strategy. You can see our digital equity partners on this slide. Our partners are providing services that are tailored to their organizations and communities. They are providing computer labs, device distributions, digital skills training, telehealth rooms, and supporting online enrollment like SNAP and Medicaid. Our grantees are from different sectors like healthcare, education, social services, and housing, affordable housing. They support all the covered populations. They are both rural and urban communities. They are large and small nonprofits and even some local government. Today's webinar is an opportunity to showcase some of the work happening across South Texas. We are a region rich in culture and innovation. With today's federal funding climate and executive orders, we know our work is becoming harder. There is no predictability. However, working together, creating collaborative opportunities, and providing accurate data are critical to elevating the need for all our communities to have access to affordable broadband services and digital skill support. We're going to kick off the panel with Ria Pape, Executive Director of SA Digital Connects. Ria is a proud San Antonio native with a deep love for her city. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's in organizational leadership, as well as an MBA in information technology from Texas Tech. As executive director of SA Digital Connects, she leads a collaborative partnership to close the digital divide in San Antonio and Bexar County. With almost 20 years in public service, Ria is passionate about building strong communities, solving problems, and making a lasting impact. Thanks, Ria, for joining us today. I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Monica. It's great to be here with you all, as well as MHM. Thank you for hosting us, and happy to be on this webinar with our friends in the RGV. Just a quick overview. I'll be about 10 minutes or so, if not less. I'll do a quick introduction of SA Digital Connects. I'll talk to you a little bit about a tool that we built last year and have in place now that's publicly available. And then, of course, be available for any questions that y'all might have. So please feel free at any time to reach out. I do have my email address there at the bottom of this slide, so y'all could catch that real quick. But I'm sure the team will share that with y'all as well. So we know, if you'll go to the next slide, please. We know that closing the digital divide is a critical priority for both San Antonio, Bexar County, and across the state of Texas. Reliable access to high-speed broadband internet is essential for enhancing daily life and driving economic prosperity. It plays a vital role in improving education, in public safety, in healthcare delivery, telemedicine, but just the overall quality of life for our community and for Texans across the state. So our organization, the model, the partnership that it's built after, came about in 2020 or 2021 after the city of San Antonio conducted a digital inclusion survey and assessment. And it was determined that although San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the country, we're a large urban area with a lot of resources. We also had one of the largest digital divides in the country. We had 20,000 households that did not have access, the infrastructure in the ground to their homes for broadband internet. So our organization was built to implement a plan to solve that problem. So that is what we do at SA Digital Connects. We also work with partners to help secure local, state, and federal funding around, all of our key areas, the infrastructure piece, the affordability piece, and those two key areas of adoption, digital skills training and devices. But what I'm really here to talk to you about today is that last piece, which is facilitate, track, and report progress. So we're super excited. I came into this role in October of 2023, and I have a little bit of a data background. I came from the Office of Innovation within the city of San Antonio and supported some projects there. So I was really excited to take on this big initiative. We partnered with a local organization called CI Now, Community Information Now. And we spent the greater part of last year doing focus groups and having conversations with community organizations about what data would be helpful for our community, not just residents, right, and not just the city and not just the county, but for other organizations, other nonprofits doing digital inclusion work. What kind of information would be helpful to them in order to plan for now and for future programs? And so it was a really extensive process. I learned so much through all of it. We built really great partnerships through the development of this tool. And so I'll share a little bit more about that with you now. If you'll go to the next slide. I think I have one more slide about partnerships. This is just a high level, our partnership in particular, so it's a public-private partnership. We do, of course, work with the city and the county directly, as well as our community organizations. But it is really hard to push forward this work in particular, broadband infrastructure type work, without the understanding and the interactions with the private sector, and that means internet service providers. So we have done a lot of legwork, a lot of due diligence on getting connected with the service providers that provide service in our community, to ensure that they are taking some ownership, right, and doing the work here in San Antonio to make sure we have what we need. And so we are, happy to say that the city and the county both have projects underway that are going to connect a good majority of those households that were lacking in 2021 before the end of next year. So back to the tool. If you'll go to the next slide. This was a high level as we started thinking about what the tool would be and how intricate, we wanted it to design it. We really wanted to make sure that, of course, we had our access data, we had our affordability data, And those two areas of adoption, digital skills and devices. And a big component of this is that return on investment. I know in our community and within our ecosystem, it is really hard to talk about the long-term return on investment, right? Those numbers are kind of hard to find. And it is always very unique to the community that you're in. So that is something we wanted to make sure we provided with this tool as well. And it is public. It is found on our website. It also runs through the Community Information Now website, where it will live forever. It does get updated every 6 months. They're actually working on an update right now. So we're excited to see what comes of this tool. We're going to be, I'll get to this part in a little bit, but let's talk about the tool real quick. If you'll go to the next slide. So it is called the Digital Investment Data Tool. I call it DIDT. It is found on our website, sadigitalconnects.com. It's under the Resources tab. And if you click the Digital Investment Data Tool, it will take you right to it. It is set up on a Tableau platform. We did that on purpose. We had a couple different options, but we really wanted to set it up on Tableau because it allowed us to take the framework that we built on the back end and transfer that framework to other cities and counties, communities that want to do the same thing. So they can take the back end of this, they can input all of their data, and they can have this tool within a matter of, couple weeks. So that is something that we'll be working on over the next couple of years to make sure that we're getting this information out, working with the Texas Broadband Development Office to further share this resource and to get other communities set up with it. So it is also, other than the cost of Tableau, there is no cost to it. Some communities already have Tableau, but what we did find is that nonprofits and local government entities also get a discounted price for Tableau, the use of Tableau as well. So we're happy to sort of help y'all get that set up or just ask questions if y'all are interested. So you can sort of see on the background of this slide what the tool looks like. This is the access page, but I believe they put the link in the chat as well. Next slide. So just briefly, the goals of this tool, as I mentioned before, was to track the progress in our community because we've made significant progress over the last 4 years with the implementation of this plan. But it's also to make those informed decisions about current and future programming. And what we have found is that we can also use it as an opportunity to celebrate the wins and to continue to sort of have a hyper local look at where the gaps are so that we can really pinpoint where the needs are, what the needs are, and how we build programs around those areas. Next slide. So that's it. I was going to mention this earlier, but I remembered I had it on this slide. This summer, probably in June, we will have some user groups. As I mentioned, we had focus groups when we started setting this up, so we will re-invite those folks. But I would love to have organizations that are new to the tool, that are interested in learning more, to join these user groups. If I don't have your contact, if I have your contact, you have heard from me. If you have not heard from me, please reach out to me. We will add you to our information list, but specifically if you're interested in being part of these user groups, we would love to have you. We want to make sure that this tool is useful. We want to make sure that it is a resource for years to come. And the best way to do that is to make sure that we're having conversations with you all who are hopefully using it on a regular basis, because that's really the goal. And so if we can make updates to the tool, if we can work on putting in some efforts, data pieces that are missing, we would love to have your support in identifying those, because that's really the goal. So please feel free to reach out to us anytime. And as I mentioned, they're working on updates now. Some of the data updates are the contract data that the city and the county have with Spectrum and AT&T. That data is in there. It's getting updated now, because we're getting it a little bit differently. Originally, we were getting it in zip code form. Now we're getting it in census tract, and so they had to sort of rearrange that. But we also will update the FCC data, which and the ACS data, which is in there when those become available. So I'll stop there. Happy to answer any questions at any point.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ria. And yeah, we have a couple of questions on the chat, and folks, we'll be able to come back to them. Ria is going to come back up, and our next presenter is going to come back up for a quick Q&A after. But Ria, I do have one question. As I know you have great support from both the county and the city, but as more communities are looking to do similar work, can you kind of share us some advice? What worked, what didn't work, what was hard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really that partnership piece, right? And so in your own communities, if you are able to identify who is in this space with you, the more people you have at the table with you, having these conversations with you, the more momentum you can build. And this work doesn't happen alone, right? No one organization can push this work forward, which is why that partnership is really key. So if you're able to identify those organizations in your own communities and really talk about a strategy, like what is your approach? What are your priorities? How are you going to approach them? How are you going to ensure that y'all are using the same language and sharing the same priorities when you have these conversations with local leaders? I think that's really key, because there's a lot. This moves quickly, right? All of the work that we're doing in broadband, and just technology in general, it moves so fast. And so the more connected y'all are on the back end, I think the more y'all are going to have folks really understand the issue and then be able to support your work.
Ria, I think we have a quick 30 seconds to answer this question, and it's one from the chat. What is the nature of the data? Is it geospatial? Is it GIS downloadable?
So some of it, that's a great question for the data team. I believe it's both. They worked with the county the GIS team at the county to get some of this data. But the work that Spectrum is doing, the infrastructure work, Spectrum is providing those monthly updates, as well as the city with AT&T. They get monthly updates. They update the data on the back end, and that is just for that contract piece. There's also ACS data. So what format that's in, I think it's just CSV. And then there's FCC data, right? And so there's multiple types of data. And so I do think there's different platforms.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ria. We really appreciate your time. Again, folks, Ria's going to come back for a Q&A after. So continue to drop your questions on the chat, and we'll surely get into that.
Thank you.
Now, I am so excited to introduce to you the Rio Grande Valley Broadband Coalition. From the coalition is Ricardo Sainz. He is the manager for the RGV Broadband Coalition, leading efforts to expand broadband access and digital equity across the RGV. With a background in nonprofit management and community engagement, he's successfully overseen an initiative focused in public health and digital inclusion. Ricardo is a lifelong resident of RGV, and Ricardo holds a Master's of Arts in Public Affairs from UT RGV, and he is highly committed to bridging the digital divide and ensuring that all communities have access tools that they need to thrive in a digital age. Ricardo, welcome.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate that introduction, and definitely a big thank you to Methodist Healthcare Ministries for inviting us to speak about the work we're doing here. Together, partners from local governments, ISPs, education, healthcare, nonprofits, engineering firms, construction managers, and other businesses, and especially philanthropy, to create a unified regional approach. Currently, the coalition sits at 40 plus members, all working towards this common goal. One of the members Connect Humanity, a nonprofit working on digital opportunity, serves as the coalition's backbone organization. Next slide, please. Now, early on, a RGV group joined together and we were receiving guidance from the state and NTIA about workforce development. But as we started digging into digital literacy and workforce training, it became clear that we needed something bigger, a shared strategy for the whole region. Our plan focuses on 5 core areas that are essential to a digitally thriving ecosystem. One is broadband infrastructure. This means laying down the physical foundation. 2 is digital opportunity programs, closing gaps in digital skills training, access to devices, and affordable internet. Next is digital workforce development. This is training people for future-ready jobs here in the Rio Grande Valley. 4th is telehealth expansion, connecting people to care in new ways, especially after the pandemic. And number 5 is small business digitalization. This is helping local businesses stay competitive and creating higher paying jobs. Our planning approach to this centered around 3 things. First was the asset mapping. What do we already have in the region, but also where are the gaps? Second approach was to working groups. These were topic-specific teams guiding the strategies and thus created our 5 focus areas. And lastly was focus groups. This was listening directly to the people with lived experiences dealing with broadband. Now, this just wasn't a technical planning exercise. It was a community-driven process shaped by people on the ground. Next slide, please. Now, we've definitely learned a lot and we're still learning. But here are some few key insights and takeaways. One being, of course, that multi-sector collaboration is essential. The work that we're doing is too big for just one entity to handle, so we're a collaborative approach. Also, through Connect Humanity, our nonprofit status, it definitely helps with fundraising and project management, but it also ensures that we can facilitate long-term regional plans. Another key focus and key insight is that we definitely center intergenerational knowledge and lived experiences. This means young people and older residents working side by side to tackle the digital divide in the area. For example, we have organizations like Trucha, a community journalism nonprofit who is uplifting youth voices and storytelling in the RGV, or the Arise IDRA Digital Ambassador Program, where colonial youth-led surveys and trainings for parents and elders. One thing that also happened and has been very instrumental is that the plan is now, our regional plan has been endorsed by our Council of Governments, and it's officially part of our regional economic development plan. There is one important point that I want to share is that even while we were still planning our plan, we started implementing programs like device distribution and digital skills training, so we can build a track record. That's already been helping us write stronger grant applications for sustainability in the future. Next slide, please. And to wrap up, definitely want to say that this is more about broadband. It's about educational and economic opportunities, healthy communities, and the ability to be active participants in this digital economy. We're definitely proud of the work that we built, and we're committed to sharing what we learned to help support other communities doing this work. Definitely, again, thank Methodist Healthcare Ministries for this opportunity. I am along here with Jordana Barton Garcia, and both of us will be happy to answer any questions and connect with anybody that's interested in collaborating. And I think the next slide has our contact information. So thank you all so much for the time and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It is very exciting stuff that is happening in the Rio Grande Valley. I do have one quick question for you is if you don't mind sharing maybe some of the strategies that you guys use to kind of get that buy-in and when y'all first initiated this kind of work from communities.
Yeah, of course. So, kind of like I mentioned, initially there was a core group. Now that core group that started this work worked with trusted members of the community who already had that trust. So long lasting history of relationships between the founders of the coalition and the RGV coalition and the RGV organizations. One thing that I will mention is we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We mobilized using mapping tools from resources like NTIA that were readily available. So instead of spending time on reinventing the wheel, we took those resources and built it up from there. Um, so our plan is definitely, and our coalition is very grassrooted. So that would be definitely a key factor, making sure that you're uplifting the voices of those individuals who may often be forgotten, especially the youth and older adults.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ricardo. I am now going to invite Ria and Jordana to join us for a quick Q&A. And folks, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and that way we could get through some of them. But folks, thank you so much for your time and for your discussion. I think it's very insightful, and I think I'll start off hitting it off and asking the hard questions. And really, what are some of the challenges that y'all had to mitigate through as you were starting this work? And Ria, I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the tool in particular, that work had a lot of challenges, right? Because we know the data is probably one of the hardest things to not only ensure is accurate and reliable once you have it, but whether or not it exists at all, right? There is some data that just does not exist. And the great thing about our work in the city of San Antonio and Bexar County over the last few years is that they have been willing, both the city and the county have been willing to work together to implement or sort of push out a survey. And so the data that we did have for this tool, but also just what we use to inform our plan has been not only, data and information that we're getting from the state of Texas and the federal government, through our large agencies, but it has been very localized as well, because both the city and the county did a joint digital inclusion survey and assessment twice. And so the first was in 2020, where we really identified the need. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and it was on top of everyone's mind, and the need was really real at that point. And so we got things off the ground a lot faster than I think we would have because of that situation. But and then again in 2023, that survey was redone, and so we have good anecdotal data as well. But what we have found in me just spending more time in this space and really sort of having all of the conversations that we have is that there's a real breakdown in terminology, right? And so we can ask, do you have access to the internet? And people will say, no, I don't have access. And they are taking that meaning of access as something different than what I'm asking, right? Or someone else is asking, because it could be at their doorstep, right? But they don't know they have it. They can't afford it. They don't know how to use it. They don't know who they need to call to get it. And so that has been, one of the biggest challenges as well, besides the data, is really having those conversations, like interpersonal conversations, building relationships with the people that you're working for, to understand what their needs really are, and then being able to sort of cross-reference those two things, right, to really identify the need. So.
Jordana, Ricardo, did you guys want to take a stab at that question? What are the challenges you guys kind of had to mitigate through as you guys were starting off this work?
Yeah, I think that's very important. Definitely, as Ria kind of noted, the mapping challenges, right? The fact that the maps, the federal broadband map, does not reflect the reality on the ground and the lived experience of the people. And we have, the American Community Survey, which shows the data that Ricardo, my colleague here, shared, where it shows the number of people or the number of households with fixed broadband subscription, which we know is important when to close the digital divide, right? To have actual household subscription and a computer to be able to do the things that people need to do to close the digital divide. So that the contradiction between the map itself and then on the ground experience, plus local surveys that had been done of UTRGV, students, showing that something like 46 to 48% did not have a fixed broadband subscription in the home when they had to turn to remote learning with the pandemic, and other community surveys, right, that document this. However, the map doesn't show that, right? So the map didn't use what maybe more sophisticated researchers would use as variables. So we're working with Roberto Guajardo, who has done some great mapping with with Purdue University and others, right, to continually to tell the story and the true story, right, rather than, it's very confusing for people when they see the federal broadband map. And even, of course, our controller pointed out that it's inaccurate, but it is being used, right, for a lot of the decisions. So how do we tell our own community story and have young people, right, looking at that data, for example, and understanding how to tell the story, how to do serve community surveys and so forth. So that was a challenge. But then also just like organizationally, right? We learned, we were meeting Michelle Vega from IDRA and others at IDRA and I and people with Rural LISC and Lupe La Unión del Pueblo Entero and others. Methodist Healthcare Ministry was at the table at that time, and also Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation, and some of the ISPs and so forth. But we realized pretty quickly that, we started responding to the information that had put out, the guidance from the Texas BDO and the NTIA about preparing for the digital workforce. And so we started tackling that, right? We came together kind of organically as a group and had been pulled together as part of the controller's region of the South Texas region, these 4 counties, the RGV. And so we kind of started meeting organically, but we realized pretty quickly that we needed to have sophisticated project management tools to do what we needed to do. And then also realized, we need a broad regional plan. And the Texas BDO was recommending that to be competitive for applications and so forth. So that's what led to our ability, right? We came under one of our organizations that Ricardo and I are affiliated with, Connect Humanity, stepped up as the backbone organization with still the support of all the people who had come together. And then together we did the asset mapping and identifying who was left out and all of that, right, that needed to be at the table. And the sophisticated, regional strategic engineering plans that the counties were doing, and partnering with ISPs to the digital skills building and digital workforce development and telehealth and all of that, right? So we were definitely had to get very sophisticated very fast, and having a backbone organization for the administration, fundraising, and all that was very, very important.
But I applaud you. You did it very fast and very well too, I should say. Sticking to the same topic around mapping and data and thinking at an even broader terms, are you guys aware of any sort of efforts to expand the mapping efforts, or even, I don't know, maybe some of the data standards and what that standardization would look like? And that's for both Ria and Jordana, if you guys want.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to start. I definitely can defer to you.
Okay, sure. So that's an interesting question, right? Especially right now that Texas is in their legislative session. There have been a couple conversations, about and letters from the comptroller's office to NTIA about some specifics, not necessarily the data itself. What's tricky and what Jordana is really highlighting is that those maps are inaccurate in that it really shows so much connectivity or access to broadband in areas that don't have it. And the caveat there is, and the way they're sort of working around that is that you can it is the first part is that it's self-reported data from the internet service providers, right? So the internet service providers will go in and say, here's where we are in all of these places. So that could be out of date, right? It could be aspirational, right? It's not necessarily there, but they want to be there. Internet service providers are not really excited about sharing data like that because it's proprietary and but they're regulated to do that. So the caveat there is that if a particular internet service provider can take a phone call and within 10 days provide service to that location, it is considered served. So you could almost say that about every urban city or county in the country. That's very different for rural, right? And more rural areas. But that is one of the biggest challenges we face there. So, we've been having conversations about that. A lot of people don't understand that caveat about the FCC maps. And I do think that with the change, in federal administration, we will start to see some updates to not only the BEAD requirements that we're all sort of holding our breath about, but also some of the maps that come through the FCC.
Yeah, so I think having ISPs report if we don't want to use our best survey that we have to date, the American Community Survey by the U.S. Census, then they could report their own fixed broadband subscriptions in the home. And they even know, right? They know all of this, right? How long they've had customers, how sticky their service is, and all of that. And that tells you a little bit about affordability and reliability too. We found in our focus groups, for example, that IDRA conducted with members, right, that they often have to drop service because it's not reliable, right? It goes out every time it rains, or so it's just a logical. People think, oh, poor people. What I've heard, them tell, like NTIAs, people tell them that, oh, the RGB, they're just, low income. They don't know it's important. No, actually they do. But sometimes logically they have to drop service if it's not reliable enough, right? So, so kind of more, listening to the actual lived experience and also fixed broadband. Why would you leave that out of one of the factors in the fabric? It doesn't make sense, right? The judges, the highest elected officials in the RGV, in our counties, right? The county judges wrote a letter to the Texas BDO and NTIA, talking about these challenges that are misrepresenting, right? And so we're working with, we're going to bring into the RGV to speak to our group, Roberto Guajardo, who uses some very important input that you would normally look at if you were trying to talk about the digital divide in this country. So we're going to take steps, and we definitely will invite all our colleagues here, and of course, to learn so that we can develop better standards and more accuracy, right? Why not start with a point of accuracy? That's what we feel. And so we're taking steps.
Yeah, thanks both. Ricardo, I want to ask a question to you that came from Marlene Ramirez, one of our participants here. I know you mentioned that there's training for folks. What exactly is that training, and how available is it to the community?
Yeah, some of our partners focus on the workforce development. So to become, whether it's a digital ambassador, digital navigator, from courses or certification like Community Tech Network, who is a partner as well. So those are what the training consists of. Making sure that they have those skills necessary, but also including other skills that will be needed. So for IT, any type of those technology needed jobs that may not be available here in the Valley. We want to make sure that we train. We have the jobs here, but we train individuals so they can stay here in the Valley. And that's one key thing about the plan is we want to build up the job opportunities that are here, but mainly the those are the type of trainings that we have that our partners have, and we're more than happy to share specifically those that are currently available too.
Some of the groups doing the most amazing work in the RGV around digital skills building. Of course, IDRA with Arise, just amazing work with the Digital Ambassador Program. You can read about that on our website and IDRA's website as well. You have Region 1 Educational Service Center that does really important work across the school districts for parents and so forth. Come Dream, Come Build, the home builder, affordable housing builder in Cameron County and beyond. They have some great digital literacy programs for their residents, right? And they're trying to tackle the infrastructure piece, right, as well. So we're going to make some inroads in the next few years in that too. But a lot going on with partners. I didn't mention them all, but some incredible digital skills building work that's ready to take to scale. And that's where we wanted to be at this point. When our plan came out, the formal plan, which we invite everybody to view on our
Oop, I think we might have lost Jordana there for a second, but I want to say what she was going to say is that you could view their plan in their website, and surely enough, we've dropped the link to that website on our comments, but we'll be more than sure to share it after this webinar. Ria, I have a question for you, and we're wondering, Mark Pearson from the participant questions here asked if any other communities or counties have they used the DIDT Tableau tool yet?
We have not worked with any yet. It came out at the end of last year, so it's still very new. We actually we were sent an email from Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. They were the first to sort of reach out about it. But that is part of our work this year, is to really sort of shout from the rooftops that this tool is available. As I mentioned, it's new. And so we're really excited to sort of see how communities are able to utilize it and continue to make those updates to the tool itself. I know we will all find unique ways to utilize it in our own communities. Some data is going to be more important and more valuable, right, than other data. And so you can also really customize the tool for your own communities as well. And we're working with CI now currently to sort of build out like a step-by-step guide on how you would go about getting the framework through Tableau. So we will provide that this summer as we start our user groups as well, and really continue to push that out.
Thanks, Ria. A question for both of you guys, moving over to the funding side, is how would you suggest we kind of look at additional funding and advocate for more funding now as compared to maybe previous years where things are quite different, a little more uncertainty? What kind of suggestions do you guys have around that?
You want to start, Jordana?
Yeah, we're definitely going to be working very closely. Hopefully you can hear me with philanthropy, the philanthropy world for sure, as we're pivoting, right? We had already started Connect Humanity and the RGV Broadband Coalition working with a group of philanthropists across the country, and we became part of a cohort that had cultivated major philanthropic funders, and they supported the work. So more of that teaching, right, and placing that in the realm of philanthropy, right, digital inclusion and broadband, including infrastructure opportunities especially under the Community Reinvestment Act, which I know everything is changing in the world right now, but we definitely can do a lot with regard to community development and community infrastructure under that, as well as digital inclusion programs. So we're going to be continuing that work for one, and just increasing our teaching and sharing, across state agencies and so forth, and then the state government, and continuing to be responsible for what's happening in our federal government, and continuing to teach and not giving up, even though things are very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I'll just add, to Jordana's point earlier, this funding is, or funding in general, is really tied to having a community plan. And so that's what we've heard a number of times from the Texas Broadband Office. So if you're in your communities now, you've got a need, you've got to be able to articulate that need with some numbers, some maps, information that is really tangible, so that when this funding does become available, right, it's sort of paused at all levels right now, but when it really does become available, you have what you need for your community to go and advocate for that funding, because they're going to need a plan, and you want to know what your needs are for your own communities, right? Like, it can't all be anecdotal, and I know that can be really hard to do. But the other thing I wanted to mention, similar to what Jordana was saying, is the philanthropic space, the private sector. I encourage you to build relationships with the service providers that are in your areas. It seems a little counter, right, to go to a service provider and say, hey, if we find some funding, or if we get some funding from the state, what can you do for us, right? Can you match it? Can you provide a percentage? Can you, how can we work together to do this? But it's not counter to do that. That is actually what has been the most effective approach thus far, in connecting communities. So if you have not had conversations with the service providers in your area, start, right? And find someone who will talk to you, even if it's someone who's not in like the external affairs or government affairs space. Find someone in that organization who will talk to you and will get you connected to the right people, because there are incentives for them to build out connected, and access and infrastructure in any area. You just kind of have to find the right way to approach it. And I'm always available to have that conversation about, what that might mean for your own community, and sort of brainstorm or talk through that. So feel free, to reach out about that. But yeah, I would absolutely go private sector, service providers, any sort of large headquarters or industry folks that are near your area, where you might have, like, if you're near Dallas or El Paso, right, but you're not in those larger communities, but maybe your residents work there, or they go to the movies, right, or they go watch theater performances or football games, right? So any large urban area that you're near, I would go and try to connect to their resources as well, because they should be incentivized to support the surrounding areas and not just their core.
We had touched
I
on a
would
little
just
bit.
add, Eliseo,
Jordana.
just that we are making like true partnerships between, like, ISPs, as Ria stated, very important to be part of your coalition, and a part of the plan, obviously, but tying programs, right? So tying our best digital skills programs and digital navigator training programs directly to the ISPs, where they serve on the help desks in internships and then full-time jobs, with the bilingual help desks in the region, and other, opportunity outreach, so it happened naturally with some of the programs like that IDRA did, then the city of FAR, which runs its own municipal ISP, right, hired some of those people to go get people signed up, right, and so they have the highest take rate in the country, and in South FAR, the lowest income, area of the city. So very important to tie directly partnerships into what do they don't do very well digital, skills building, right? They're doing their job of connecting people, and we can help, with the other programs that are part of this plan, right? With complementing that, right? Getting people not only hooked up, but with the skills and training and technical assistance provision. It's great to have local community leaders who are getting this training and becoming digital navigators, to be these employees, right, to connect the community.
Thanks, Jordana, and thanks, Ria, to adding to that. We're kind of coming close to the end here, and so I want to give you guys 2 minutes to close out and kind of share with us what are some of the key outcomes or changes we could expect from you guys and in the next 3 to 5 years or so. Ria, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention too, I saw a couple of questions or comments about Tableau in the chat as well. And I agree, it is definitely not a mapping application. That was not the intent of the tool that we worked on. And it was a very specific choice, as I mentioned, for Tableau. But if you want to build maps, definitely don't use that. Right, this our tool is really meant to provide a large range of data and information that you can glean from that data. And so just wanted to mention that. I totally agree. As far as the future goes, so SE Digital Connects has been around since 2021. It has really been the intention of the organization and the plan to not live on in perpetuity as a nonprofit. And so by the end of 2026, our work in San Antonio and Bexar County around the digital equity plan, the digital investment plan, will conclude. And so I have the great privilege and challenge to make sure that we have met all our goals and to ensure that all of the things that we've done have a factor of sustainability in place. And I'm really excited to do that for our community and with our community. I think next year, when we really start to wrap things up, there's going to be a really great and beautiful story to tell about the progress that we made in San Antonio. And we did not close the digital divide, right? There's always going to be a divide. We know that the next big digital divide is around artificial intelligence. But we have seen so much progress in our community that the city and the county and the community organizations really doing this work, and even the service providers who have been there, along the way with us, should be really proud. And so we're excited to share that with y'all.
Thank you so much, Ria. Yeah, we're excited to see what comes next. RGV Broadband Coalition, a quick 2 minutes. What can we expect from you guys in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, of course. So I think the outcomes that we hope and will happen are tied into our plan. So first, doing as much as we can to close the digital divide in the region as far as high-speed connectivity and affordability. We also want to make sure and hope to see computer ownership increase in low-income communities, as well as improving the digitalization of micro businesses and nonprofits in the area. And one thing that we'll be focusing on next is also the expansion of telehealth. So making sure that we expand telehealth to improve health outcomes and cost of care. And of course, our plan is meant to be a living document. Like we mentioned, things are going to be evolving. Things are going to change. Things have changed so much already within the past few years. So we're expecting that to happen. So ensuring that the document that we have, the plan that we have, is a living document, it's a living strategy. We're able to adapt to these recent changes like AI was mentioning. So we're definitely going to be tackling that as a group and and continue to see positive changes in our communities.
And I think the coalition will kind of decide how it moves forward. For sure, that's been one of our big lessons learned is making sure the coalition is guiding everything that we do and making decisions together. But we know, right, that as Ria said, technology, dealing with technology, we're in the first steps, right, of making sure who's at the table, right, with designing technology and deciding policy wise how we use it. But we know it's just the beginning, right, to be at the table. Then how do you shape policy for the best of humanity and bringing the great outcomes of healthcare access and so forth, to the region? That's what we're interested in. So we'll be definitely keeping up with our key metrics, to close the digital divide, but also developing new metrics of evaluating where are we, right, and how engaged is our community in the digital economy and opportunity going forth. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I say it often, and I'm not gonna get tired of saying it. South Texas is the place to be, and it's an exciting time to be here. And really, these folks are the ones working towards that. So thank you so much, Ria. Thank you, Jordana. Thank you, Ricardo. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We were so excited to have you guys here. And this is not the end. This is just the start. And so we're excited to be hosting another similar webinar in June 25th. You'll get, in the comments, you'll get a registration for that webinar. We're still finalizing some of the details. And so we'll start updating that invite. You've heard from me, Elisol Ceja. You've heard from Monica Gonzalez, but also on our team is Antonio Westmoreland. And so we want to thank everybody that participated and that joined in us and helped put this together. I'll also invite you guys in the last 2 minutes or so to take a quick survey. We want to hear from you. If you enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it, what could change? And we hope to stay connected. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.